It begins.
Yeah.
Day 2 of my 12-month sabbatical from my role as a paramedic in the ambulance service. Now, I've worked for the ambulance service for the last 7 years. I was 22 when I started, and I actually started as an emergency care assistant, or an ECA. I moved up through and became a student paramedic, and then I became a paramedic, and I completed my 2-year kind of junior paramedic, or it's called an NQP, a newly qualified paramedic role, 2 days ago. So literally got my band 6 and then skiddled on out of there to take a year off and explore a whole different realm of health and healing and how to help people, essentially. So today's video, I thought it would be interesting to run through the list of jobs that I did on my last shift. We actually ended up doing 10 jobs, which is a fair amount for a 10-hour shift. It ended up being an 11-hour, 45-minute shift because we had an overrun. But yeah, I thought I would just run through the jobs, run through my opinion of the situations around the NHS, how things are managed, and how the shift went, because why the fuck not? I am trying to step into this world of online because I have a school community, I have an online community where I am trying to help people to check back in with their body, their brain and their mind, because I know how much it's helped me move from being a chaotic, scatterbrained, which I don't ever call myself now, human, into somebody that is pretty confident now, when I used to have silent, secretive social anxiety forever. Pretty confident and can get my shit done, you know, like without it sending me into meltdown. Anyway, 2 quick questions before we get started. In fact, fuck that. Let's just roll into it. So let's run through. Also, I was making musical tracks earlier for the breathwork. This microphone isn't actually on, so let's get to it. Okay, so job number 1. We got sent to a 6-day-old baby and the mum. So we were sent to the job. They initially told us, control told us, that we would maybe have another crew attending because both the mum and the baby needed an ambulance. Now, when we got there, there were community first responders on scene, okay? So that quite often happens if there's a job where they feel like there could be oxygen intervention or any cardiac support intervention. So for like, maybe they might need to have CPR, then they often will send a first responder if we are going to get there after them. So we arrived, first responders are there on scene, and mum and baby are there. Now, this happens all the time where jobs are actually mega fucking chill. I think people have an idea of the ambulance service that we're going to like life and death situations all the time. Not the case. In fact, quite the opposite. So we get there, mum's chilling, baby's chilling, both look well. Turns out the baby had a moment of kind of like respiratory distress and had a moment where the limb went blue. Bit strange. And then the mum had been dealing with some chest pain. Now, the mum, bless her heart, she hadn't slept. She'd had a C-section, fucking 10 out of 10 to her, because boy oh boy, she was looking so surprisingly fresh as well. Like, I feel like I would be zombieing out my eyeballs. But yeah, so in that situation, I stood down another crew because the baby is 6 days old. You're not going to separate mum and baby at that time. Mum's breastfeeding, the baby needs to stay with mum. So we were happy to just treat both. If they were more unwell, then absolutely we would have called another crew, but it was just inappropriate for the level of job. So that was nice. And seeing the baby boy didn't make me broody. So I got to make this business up and running and get off the ground so that my wife and I can have a baby happily and with less money stress. Job number 2. So the next one was also a baby job. Now, before this shift started, I had been saying to Will, my crewmate, I want to get a birth. I want a maternity job. I would love, how symbolic if we went to a birth. But alas, no births for us, just a death, which happens at the end. So anyway, we went, and it was a really, really cute little baby again who had, he or she was only a few months old, but they'd had open heart surgery days after being born because they had a hole in the heart. Really common for children. Well, not that common, but something you can come across a fair amount. And yeah, again, mega chill job. Had a fever, had some jabs, so we took it in because it's, again, under the 3-month mark, and babies and or infants don't really have a like an immune system like we would. They can't respond to things, they can't regulate their temperature, so whenever they get a fever, they're more high risk, and this baby had previous surgery, so doubly high risk. So in they went, but again, mega chill. Job number 3 was, let's have a look, I've noted them down. Job number 3 was for a lady who was on the cusp of, she was known to have a UTI, an elderly lady, and she didn't want to come into hospital, and her relative was saying maybe she should have to go into hospital. Now here is where we kick into some moral dilemmas. So going into hospital is not ideal unless you are going to receive treatment. Going into hospital to be looked after or to be monitored is not the vibe. 100% necessary for some patients if they're on their own, they're off legs, so they can't walk around. Then yeah, it's going to be the safest place for them, okay? But think when you're in a hospital, you're in bright white lights, it's noisy, you're in a corridor, you're probably not going to get much attention throughout because there's however many other patients there and only a handful of nurses to have to manage all of those people. So if you have an elderly relative that has the option of being looked after by you and you come in and stay in overnight, as much as it is an inconvenience to your day, that is potentially friggin' life-saving to that elderly person, because people decline quickly in hospital. Elderly patients decline very quickly in hospital. So we try to avoid taking as many in as we can. This lady was very much on the cusp. Observation, perfect. Did have a UTI, so was a bit more confused than normal. Again, really common for elderly people to become very confused when they have a UTI. She had already started the antibiotics. The relative was there to be able to look after her. We still recommended that she should come in because she was struggling to stand. However, she was adamant that she did not want to go in. Now, again, like I say, if there were safeguarding issues, we would have maybe argued with her a little bit more, not argued, but like we would have convinced her a bit more. But the relative was happy to keep an eye on her all night and to either call back if things declined, or if the antibiotics were starting to kick in and do their thing, then groovy. By the morning, she could hopefully avoid the hospital. So that's just one where it's really worthwhile to note that family is the biggest fucking privilege ever. And if you have the ability to support your relative, call work, call anything, because that is a fucking life-saving business. Avoiding their attendance to hospital if they don't have to go in, I cannot tell you the amount of times we've had to just take someone in because families say, no, I can't do it. And I get it when you are really genuinely busy. But there are also a lot of times where people don't understand the severity of going into hospital unnecessarily, and they just say, no, it's a bit of a trouble. I don't want to stay here overnight. Each to their own, but equally, we groove. Okay, next patient. Then we move on to who did we do next? Oh, a random a random asleep in the street, very common job. Now, we got there, she was grooving, she'd had a few drinks. We walked down to go and find her friends. They had left because she'd been asleep for a few more hours than normal, but she was GCS 15, so completely alert with it by the time that we woke her up, and we had gotten to her, and we just dropped her home. Now, that is something that can be very frowned upon in the ambulance service, of dropping people home, because there is this this kind of unwritten thing of like, we don't want people to learn that this can be a normal thing, like, because sometimes regulars find that they will just call 999 and then they can get dropped home in an ambulance, as opposed to getting themselves home in a taxi or on the train, however it may be, or on foot. Okay, obviously this is an inappropriate use of the service. However, when it is kind of a one-off, she lived down the road, it is completely paramedic and crew dependent, but say as you will, we were happy to take her home. She was a young girl. I would much rather drop her home than her have to now walk home alone at 3 a.m. Next patient. Then we went to a diabetic patient, and boy, this guy, he had blood sugars of 0.6. This is very freaking low. We walked in, luckily we knew it was a diabetic patient, because otherwise, we walked in, he's on the bed, he looked like a goner already. He looked absolutely brown bread. Sweaty, pale, clammy to fuck, like, oh my god, completely dripping in sweat. And we got to him, partner says, oh, he's really difficult to cannulate, and immediately any paramedic knows that you're like, shit. So, how do we manage this? Wife, as I was getting the cannulation kit out, I said to wife, please, could she put some glucogel in his gums? Great, get that rolling. A bit of buccal glucogel to try and hopefully get something started in his system to bring up those sugar levels. My crewmate ran down to grab some bits and bobs. What was he gonna get extra? Can't even remember. The carry chair. We would have had the green bag. We had glucagon, the cannulation. Maybe oxygen? But his oxygen levels were perfect. But I think he looked so bad that we were just like, so I was getting the cannulation pouch out. Wife is doing glucagon. Will comes back up speedily, and then said to him, please, can he draw up glucagon whilst I'm cannulating? First cannula, missed it. Fuck. Like, god damn it. And the wife was like, honestly, really difficult to cannulate. Obviously, glucagon is a medicine that is it's like naturally produced within us, but it helps us to pull out glucose stores within the liver. Now, this patient also had an autoimmune disease of the liver, okay? So he had no glucose stores. He's got no glycogen stores. So the wife was saying, so she was telling me that, and I was like, well, fucking great. This is not even gonna work, this IM injection. So we need to pray to the Lord that this cannula goes in. Thankfully, we got it in. So second attempt, got the cannula in, great. Run through 100 ml of glucose. And any paramedic will know that the satisfaction of a hypo job is so high. Like I say, this guy he looks dead. Like, he looks absolutely cooked. And then just with a little sprinky dink of glucose, he suddenly sat up talking. We've, dabbed him down. He sat up talking, he's grooving, and he's like, what the fuck happened? Did I have another hypo? Yes you did. And yeah, all very chill. Now, I'm blessed to have a lot of experience with hypos, so they don't invoke this panic within me. When I first started, when I first qualified, they used to terrify me because the person looks so unwell. They are so unwell. They literally have zero energy, zero glucose left in their body. And what have we learned from my videos already, hopefully, is that to make ATP, our cellular energy, we need oxygen and we need glucose, okay? If his glucose is basically zero, not good. Anyway, this has happened to this guy quite a few times, bless him. He'd been dealing with complex diabetes. He's got type 3 type BC, which is a rare type. And yeah, they were happy to kind of sign paperwork and say, we're going to stay at home, monitor, jobs are good. So that was a good job. All left very well. Then we went to a random guy that, bless his heart, had fallen over in a corridor, elderly. Luckily hadn't been there very long, got called, went, picked him up, walked him into his house. He lived in apartments, super chill. 4 non-injuries we do all the time. If, however, somebody has been on the floor for longer than an hour, especially if they've been stationary and they haven't been able to move, we need to call up and get long live bloods for that patient, which essentially is a blood test. They'll come out the next day, or they can go to the surgery if they're able to, and they need to check to see if there's been any build-up of damage to, I actually forget, I don't know the name of it, but essentially your muscles can break down. It's like a rhabdomyolysis situation, almost like a crush injury. The muscle can break down, and when that gets in the bloodstream, it's really difficult for the kidneys to filter that out. So yeah, it can cause a lot of concern. So if you know of anyone that's had a long life fall and they didn't get an ambulance, make sure that you tell them to drink lots and lots of water and to just be safe and check in with them the next few days, okay? Super common job that we go to. Then what we thought was going to be the last job was a guy that had called us, and he said he had a bug in his throat and that it was moving around and he needed to get it removed. We had a chat with him for a while. We recommended him some type of pain relief, which was just paracetamol because he said it was uncomfortable, and some Lemsip for a sore throat, and redirected him to his GP, and we moved on, and he was safe to remain with his family. And we thought that was going to be the last job of my final shift, which was, you know, bless his heart, could argue kind of comical, but that would be morally rude. Think of it as you will. But then we had one final job, which I actually can't talk about because today on my day off, I had to make a police statement for it. So it will remain a mystery. It will remain a mystery. Anyway, I thought this would just be an interesting introduction video now that I'm leaving the ambulance behind me for a whole year at least. And yeah, hopefully follow along, ask me any questions, any paramedic questions, any nervous system regulation, breathwork questions. I'm about to step into a world of holistic healing, breathwork, Reiki. We're going full 180 on the Western healing because Western medicine is fucking incredible to stop you from dying. What it is not good at is helping you live. So that's what I want to be in the business of, helping you live your life and actually have a good time. And anyway, yeah, love ya. Let's hope that was in focus, because crumble if not.